My co-hosts for the day, Craig Yace and Scott Benson. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Oh, it says we're having connectivity issues, so let's hope this is going live.
It
our
says
viewers
live on my
are going to be
side.
disappointed. It says live mine, and I got a little error message. But hey, we're live. We're talking Corona, California. So, Craig, how are we doing today? What's going on in Corona?
Corona's tough, man. Let me tell you. So I'm just sorry I'm looking down. I got to look at my screen here. Okay. We've got 140 homes active in the market in Corona, the city of Corona. The reason I talk about Corona is Corona's not such a big city that it throws the numbers off. Yeah. And it's not such a small city that it throws the numbers off. It's kind of like right in the middle. But that's down from what, 180 or 190 last week. And
it is down, but I did hear a stat the other day that the average home gets 3 offers in Corona right now. So even with a slower market, I mean, there's still people buying. There's still competition going on those homes. We share a common client that made multiple offers on multiple homes and never was able to put a deal together. But of course, they were fishing for a very, very, very low price point in the market, and it can be difficult working with. We always understand people want to get great prices, but you also have to use reasonable judgment about the prices you go after. Otherwise, it's all just practice, right?
Yeah, and one of the homes, to your point, we had 8 other offers that we were competing with. We actually may have had more, but the agent whittled it down to the top 8, and we were in the top 2 or 3. So we did okay, even though somebody else just stepped up a little bit more.
But honestly, that was your expertise that got him in the top 2 or 3. Because if you would not have spoken to him about where that bid needed to be, it was still a great price point, but it was one that would at least be considered. Because I mean, a lot of people put in deals and you find out about the deal versus the list price and take a look at the property. It's not overpriced in the market. And you go, you know what? You're not going to get anywhere with that.
Right. And we did. We stepped up in price from the list price.
Yep.
And and sweeten the pot as much as we could, and lots of communication. So like you were saying, without that communication, I don't think we would have been there.
No.
As a listing agent, because I help, it's about half and half buyers and sellers. I get emails with offers and no phone call, no text. It's just like, well, I'm glad it didn't go to my spam box.
Right.
That's no way to start the relationship that's going to last for 30 to 40 days. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So to have that communication up front, I think that helped quite a bit.
Yeah, I do too. And, it's exciting when you work with somebody that really wants to put a deal together and they know what they're looking for. I mean, that's, but a lot of times people don't know at first. You got to work with them. You got to explain what the programs are and what their options are. And, sometimes you have to reset those expectations. Sometimes you can move them up because they can actually afford more than they realize.
Right.
But more often it's moving them the other direction. But you never know.
And some people just have to lose their favorite home before they get it. So, I mean, that's just people, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
I had a guy years ago, I think I may have mentioned it before. And, he was coming into Corona, and it's very much this way right now. If you listen to the national news, it sounds like the market's at a standstill. But when you get into a local market, it doesn't, national just goes out the window. So, I was telling this guy, hey, Tony, we got to come in strong. There's multiple offers. There's, it's a frenzy out there. And he said, Craig, I watch the news. I know what's going on. You realtors are always trying to make us, make an offer so you can make a quick buck. And a little bit of time went on, and I was actually out of town. He went to this development that he had his eye on, and he calls me, Craig, it's crazy here. There's people everywhere. People are throwing money and writing checks. What do I do? And fortunately, again, with that communication with that agent, I had already had 2 homes picked out for him that I knew he would like. He just had to make a decision on which one. And it doesn't always work this way, but that agent actually held both those homes for Tony to get there.
And that's because you develop a relationship with them,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to find a way to put a deal together.
Yeah. People don't really understand this when they, and no knock on this. I mean, I'm the cousin or the brother or the friend that people use, but when you use your cousin, your aunt, your, whatever, just because they have a real estate license doesn't mean they can get you the deal, or doesn't mean that they're going to take care of you in the deal. And so that separates the, wheat from the chaff, shall we?
Yes, completely agree.
So, why do we feel that the inventory is so low and continues to decrease?
I don't know for sure, but my guess, and by the way, in the last 30 days, we closed 153 homes, which is also down, probably because there are less homes on the market. But I think people got some really good interest rates and they're not willing to give those up. So the people who are selling either didn't refi, or they have to move, or they feel like, they want to move. And a lot of people are still moving out of California. So I think that's the market.
Well, and we can say from our side, even when people read about it and they know that rates go up, when you quote what rates are today, it's definitely a little bit of a shocker if somebody's closed at 3 point something, and then they take a look at these rates, and they backed off a little bit lately, but still they're higher than what people have become accustomed to in the last 24 months, right? So
now, that said, and again, this is nationally, we're seeing that people are starting to get back out there because just like what you said, they've become more comfortable with these rates.
Mm-hmm.
My first house I bought back in 2004, the rate was 6.5%. What are they today? About 6.5%, right?
Right.
And the difference is they had 100% financing back there. So I got a loan for the big chunk and a loan for the smaller chunk, the 20% of the value of the home. And that was at 11.5%.
I was just going to say, yeah. So your blended rates up around 8. So, and nothing is as bad as it was in the 70s when the rates were really high. But you know what?
Yeah.
In the 70s when rates were really high, homes values were going up even faster. So it's all relative, right? If when you tend to see interest rates go up, home appreciation tends to go up right along with it, and it tends to kind of balance each other out. Different markets, different outcomes, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going a different direction with that, Scott. You said in the 70s rates were really high, and then I thought you were going to follow with what? Yep, so were the buyers.
Yeah.
The 70s.
The holdovers from the 60s. Yes.
Exactly.
All the flower children were ready to buy their homes. Yeah.
Hey, in the 90s, the rates were still high. I did some research in the neighborhood that I grew up in when I was a teenager, and I was looking at these. There was a home around the corner from the house I grew up in, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to check out our house and see what the value is and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how I got here, but I ended up finding my mom's. She did a refi in 94, 95. Her interest rate was 8.9%. No, I'm sorry. I keep doing that. 11.9%.
Wow.
And it capped out, because it was an adjustable rate. It capped out, I don't know if it was 15 or 18.9, probably 15.9. I mean, which would have been crazy. I mean, her payment back then, I don't know what the payment would have been, $1,500, would have gone up $500. I mean, that's a huge amount. Huge amount.
Intense. That's intense.
Yeah. So it's good to see them as low as they are today.
Exactly. And
all the perspective, right?
It's all perspective.
Yeah.
Well, and affordability, of course. So there's that.
Yeah. So we don't want to. We're 10 minutes into it and we haven't laid out our famous segment that everybody loves so much.
I know.
So let me get this out here, because before you know it, the show's going to be over and we haven't even started put it out there. So one of us, and this is going to be tough. This one's going to be really tough, and you'll know why once I say it. One of us was one of us going to talk. One of us was rejected by our dad's modeling agency for being too old. Now, why that's so tough? I mean, obviously, either one of us could be a model. I mean, that goes without saying. So
I'm thinking
that's
it's
probably the
Mario
hardest
over
one to
here.
pick about the whole thing. Yeah, I know. You got a variety of options with this crowd that you're working with there. So one of us used to work at a video store back when videos were a thing. So the Blockbuster of the world. One of us used to work and actually was a manager at one of those. And lastly, one of us surfed with a monkey.
There you go.
How one of us had a monkey to begin with is beyond me. How one of us could surf is beyond me. And surfing with a monkey, that takes it to a whole nother equation. So I'm anxious to hear of us three, and it's probably me, is the one that did that. So
Hey, it could be me. I grew up 10 miles from Newport Beach, had the
I know,
beach
I'm telling
cruiser.
you.
Well, you know what? And
That's it.
years
That's
ago,
it.
I heard there
I
were
mean,
monkeys all over the beach. So there you go.
Hey, what did you say a
I got
moment ago? It
from our
triggered.
audience that I'm moving to the back. What's that?
Oh yeah, you're shaking. You're moving and shaking. I don't
It's
know what I was
because
going to say.
I took my
lost
green
it.
screen down. I took my
What?
green screen down, and I have to put it back up. In fact, I didn't take it down; my kids took it down. So I think it's because I have that artificial background, and that's why it's doing that. So
Yeah.
hold on, how's that?
Hey, you know what? People are used to it nowadays. It's even on the news. So
Oh, it
Telling you.
is. All
If I
the
don't
time.
move, I just stay right here.
there you go. Oh, you still have a little halo.
Oh man, well that's because I'm just a nice person.
Yeah. It's God shining.
All right, Craig, do you have an amazing neighborhood to share with us today?
Well, we've really covered a lot of Corona, but I'm going to touch on a neighborhood that I've talked about before. It's actually a huge neighborhood. Can't really call it a neighborhood, just an area. It's got many different neighborhoods in it. One of the neighborhoods in it is Chase Ranch. That's where I was going to buy my first house, and I accidentally locked the key in the house, and the agent thought maybe it was a ploy to keep other people from seeing it, but it was just an accident. But I call it Irvine East. South Corona is a big area. It's nestled right up into the Cleveland National Forest. First owl I ever saw in my life was flying right towards me, and just took off. Me and my green minivan.
Who?
So yeah, South Corona, Irvine East.
Is this something I'm looking up and sharing on the screen, Craig?
I don't see anything on the screen except for.
No. Would you like? What am I searching?
Oh no. That's
it.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's where you're going to buy your first house.
Huh?
That was where you're going to buy your first house, you said?
That Chase Ranch is a neighborhood in South Corona, and that's where I was going to buy my first house. We ended up passing by.
Is there still developments, like new developments, new build, or is the area built out now?
It's pretty built out, but you'll find on the Corona has an unincorporated area that they're trying to make a city, or has become a city, called Temescal Canyon, and so there's some land out there that they're still building on. A beautiful neighborhood went in. We'll talk about that next week. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So guys, we are 10 days away from the big day.
What's the big day?
Yeah.
Tax day, right? April 15th.
Oh, tax day. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, big. I mean, I don't do tax. I don't pay attention to it, but some people might pay attention and want some tax tips. So let's talk about some ideas that we have to save or reduce your tax bases with real estate. I know with real estate investments how to do that. Scott, I'll start with you. Do you have any ideas on what we can share with our listeners on how to maybe minimize their tax basis?
Well, I mean, now are you saying I can't speak to the way that they can minimize their tax basis with real estate investing?
No, I want you to speak to it. Please do.
All right, I was gonna say, you take the major player off the table if I can't speak to that. So
Yep.
there are so many ways. I mean, if you take a look at the tax code is written to encourage people to take very specific actions. And some of the things it's written to encourage is investment in R&D and technical and biotech and things of that nature. But the other thing is, for individuals, there's a big incentive to invest in real estate, both commercial and residential real estate. And how do they do that? Well, they do that in a number of ways. They allow you to take depreciation expense in an appreciating asset. So think about it. You buy a place, and on very, very rare occasions, it might go down in value. But long term, over decades, it always goes up, and it always goes up significantly. So you don't ever lose value in that investment. Yet you can depreciate everything except the land. And then your depreciation schedule is dependent upon the type of property, anywhere from 27 and a half up to 39 years, unless you take advantage of the accelerated depreciation schedule that is available to people right now. And for our listeners that have seen us do other shows, we've talked about how the accelerated depreciation credit, you used to get 100% of that accelerated credit up through the end of last year, but this year you still get 80% of the credit. So it's a very nice investment. And then I should add on top of that, this year, if you buy a car, and if the car is over 6,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, as I understand it, if you're a real estate investor, you could potentially buy this car, put it against your LLC that has all of your real estate investments in it. If you can show that you use it the majority of the time to support your real estate offerings, then you could also write off 100% of the expense associated with that car, even if you've got it, let's say, on a 5-year payment plan. So depreciation expense on real estate, depreciation expense on over a 6,000 pound car. So if everybody has been dreaming of buying that new GMC Hummer that weighs 9,200 pounds and goes 0 to 60 in 1 nanosecond, even though it weighs a ton, well, actually almost 5 tons,
Yeah.
you can do that this year, and the government will pay you for it. So there, that's my tax
Craig,
deal.
No, that's all good advice. What's funny, though, Scott, is when you talk cards and guns.
Yeah.
What? I'm just going to leave it at that because the statute, everything's a fully automatic gun.
Yeah.
So
no, that's really good advice. What do you think, Craig?
Cars are now an appreciating asset rather than a depreciated, or rather an asset rather than a liability, huh? This one moment in time.
It's one moment in time, and it really only helps you the first year. You still take all that hit, but in the end, it's basically you got half of it taken care of. Half of the expense for a lot of people that are in real estate is it will be taken. The expense of it you offset with less taxes, so it's not a bad gig.
And the disclaimer that we need to run across the bottom, the moniker needs to say, none of this should be taken as tax advice. We don't know what the heck we're talking about. We're just realtors and lenders. Talk to your tax professional, right?
Thank you, Craig, for pointing that out. And Craig is absolutely 100% correct. Don't take our word for it. Talk to your CPA, talk to your attorney. Definitely don't listen to us.
Now, that said, I did have somebody that I helped.
I let Scott. What's that?
I did have somebody that I helped last year who he was doing a 1031 exchange to buy some properties. So they were all cash deals. And I found him another one. I said, hey, if you get a loan for part of this, and he said, and he's worth millions of dollars, I think. I mean, I never saw his financials, but he said, I couldn't qualify for a loan because he's depreciated all of those assets. It looks like he's not making money for the next 5 years, Right.
And that's when you get into DSCR loans, right? And that's why DSCR loans are so helpful to people, that when they're writing off all of their income, it shows that they have no income because they've used such a tax advantageous strategy. Bad news is you show no income for loans, but fix that with a DSCR.
Yep.
100%. All right. So well, what I was going to say is, Craig, I don't run that disclaimer because I just let Scott give the advice and I just shut up.
That's perfect.
Just like when we go to Florida, he can run faster than me, so he doesn't have to beat the alligator. He just has to beat me.
That's right.
All right. I still think I can beat him, though. I'm going to say that. My advice, if I was to give it to talk to a professional, would be you can look at doing a self-directed Roth IRA. And you take your post-tax money and invest in real estate, and then the gains that you accrue will not be taxed down the future. And why that can be advantageous, we don't know what the tax rate's going to be in 10, 20, 30 years. So take it now where we already know where it's at, and grab that value and increase, because typically taxes seem to go up.
Yes.
And save that when you exit out.
Yep.
So there we go.
I've got two. Can I share two?
Share as many as you want.
All right. Number one is for the typical W-2 employee. A lot of people don't know that they can actually afford more house by taking their tax deduction out of their paycheck. So you find out what you're going to pay in interest and in taxes, a little bit of math. You do in fact, the IRS website will help you with that. Still very conservative because they want more of your money. But
Right.
the reason people get a tax refund is because they've paid the IRS too much throughout the year. So rather than taking that tax refund at the end of the year, and I know a lot of people like to go on vacation, that kind of thing, but take it throughout the year to offset some of your housing and other expenses. You just have to do the math well to make sure that you don't owe at the end of the year. Or if you do, that's okay too, because you got to use that money. And hopefully you're using it for something that's going to benefit you, monetarily. It's going to be better than, it's going to pay you more than the deduction that you're taking. I know people that do this and they put it into the stock market or other investments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Common strategy. Yep. That's one.
Number two, if you are coming up in sports, you're a ball player, you're brand new, you're just getting going, maybe you sign that $1 million contract or more, you're coming up in music. I've got a guy that I work with who's relaunching his music. He had a brain tumor a long time ago, and it took him out, and he's doing well now, and his music's taken off. And I said, hey, look, your first $500,000, your first $1 million, if you take that money and instead of spending it on a watch and the Ducati and all those stupid things, the liabilities, and
Right.
put it into a house that you're now going to rent out and depreciate, first of all, it's an investment. My understanding, again, I'm no tax attorney, but my understanding is that you're not going to pay taxes on that income for the year. So that anybody who's coming up, they're coming into a little bit of money, that would be my advice. Get an investment property or two, and if you could pay cash for it, of course you've got a tax liability when you're getting your rents, but that's it's a lot better than a tax hit on $1 million, right?
Absolutely.
That's great advice, Craig. And in fact, if you could go back to anybody, like as my kids are, Scott, you've got kids that are in their 20s that are in house buying age now. Best advice you can give somebody is get into the real estate game and just grab that write-off, but more importantly, the appreciation over time. It's just what a difference it makes. A lot of times I think guys, I look back coming out of college or high school, and everybody wanted to have it now. I want the cool car now. I want this now. And you're so focused on the present, you don't see the future. And I don't know if it's the way our brains wired when we were younger, but man, if I could go back to the old Ted and tell him to get a house, that'd be a priority.
Yeah.
I mean, what a difference maker.
Yeah.
Totally.
Even if it was just investments and you weren't even living in them and they're paying for themselves and you have tenants paying for them. The value you have with that. So, and I guess at the end of the day, it's never too late. So even if you're my age or even Scott's age for that matter, never too late.
Really old. Really old.
Craig laughed at that.
That's good advice, gentlemen. That's good advice.
Very cool. So, hey guys, Craig, if I wanted to go to Corona, California this weekend, what am I going to do?
Mhm. I think I talked about it before. You know what? This weekend, I would go to Tom's Farms, especially if you like motorcycles. I don't know why people gather there, but you're going to have uh, 50, 60 Harleys to just walk by, and I wouldn't touch one of them. I certainly wouldn't lean on one and knock it over, but
Sit on one and take a picture?
huh?
Would you sit on one and take a picture?
Only, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. No, probably not. Probably not.
Would you ask somebody for a ride and sit on the back?
No. I'm not wrapping my arms around whoever's driving that thing. But it's really cool. It's a big chunk of property that this family's owned for years. And they've got a furniture store. It's all handmade furniture. There are a few restaurants. There's a little lake there, some picnic areas. They're usually playing music. And it's just like a big fair. There's a farmer's market. It's a really, really cool spot. And it's just outside the city limits, but it's a neat place to spend a Saturday or Sunday afternoon.
Is that farmer's market every weekend, or is that, I'm sorry, Craig, is that farmer's market every weekend, or is it during the week too?
Yeah, well, okay. Farmer's market's probably an overstatement. It's more like a big fruit and vegetable stand. Huge though. Fantastic.
Okay.
Fantastic
Sure.
Produce. And that's open. So Tom's
Very nice.
Farms is open every day, but people gather on the weekends and just hang out, drink some wine, and have a good time. I like wine.
That sounds fun.
I love wine.
A lot of fun.
Wine is a wonderful thing. So,
Yes, it is.
All right.
So,
Well, I'm going to go next. So
okay.
what I'm going to give people is something that is going to make some people watching the show really happy. And that is a place called Artsy Nannies. Okay. So if you come to Vegas and you want to have a night out with just mom and dad, there's a really great daycare facility that goes by the hour inside Town Square. Town Square is just about a mile past Mandalay Bay on Las Vegas Boulevard, or South Las Vegas Boulevard. And this place, I mean, first of all, the people are great. Our kids go there. If depending on their age, you get as cheap as $5 an hour per kid. And they have food there, Lunchables, Gatorade, juice boxes, chips. Our kids like to run a tab up. They like to buy for the crowd. So it's expensive, but it's okay. And you can take your kids there. So come to Vegas. You want to have a night out. They're open till 11 o'clock on the weekends. So you can have a nice dinner, maybe catch a show, and know your kids are taken care of. Artsy Nanny in Town Square.
Artsy Nanny. Is that where I've seen you eat that great pizza?
I'm sorry, Craig. I have the worst connection right now, and you're breaking up. Can you say it one more time?
Is that where I've seen you eat that great pizza? You and your wife and your kids. It was just in a
no.
Instagram
You
post.
see me eat the great pizza? Yeah.
We'll talk about that next time. Great pizza.
No.
Yes,
so
yes.
great
Great.
pizza. I've talked about at length. Good Pie, and Pizza Rock are my pizza spots. But no, Town Square. There is a place in there. There's actually a lot of food joints at that place. There's a movie theater. There's a variety of stuff to do. Shopping. Saks Fifth Ave is in there. There's ice cream spots. But it's, again, for me, drop the kids off and go.
Yeah. Kind of like Circus used to be in the 70s.
I like it. I like it.
Hey, let me tell, we were talking about building wealth, especially for young people. Something that I've been trying to get the word out on is right now, California's got the California Dream for All Shared Equity Program. So that's a loan where they're going to share equity, but they're going to give you 20% to put down as a down payment on a home. So if you're struggling or you're thinking, I could never afford a home, well, if you've got 20% down and you're only paying on that 80%, even with these higher interest rates, and you didn't have to come up with that money out of your pocket, this is a great opportunity, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. The interesting thing is, I believe they only funded $300 million, which seems like a lot. But if you average the average home price in California, because it goes from San Francisco on down or above San Francisco on down, I don't know if it's $600,000. I mean, that's only what 300 or 500 loans, 500 loans, right?
That's nothing for a state our size. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. You
Nothing.
do have to be in the right kind of parameters between income high enough, but not too high.
Yep.
But it's a great program. I mean, who would not share a 20% of their gain with someone in exchange for them providing 20% of the down payment on the house? I think it's absolutely amazing. It's a great program for everybody, for the state, for the people, everybody.
Yeah, and it's there have been programs like that before, not state sponsored, but but they share 50% of the equity, and I could never really get behind that, but I could get behind 20.
Me too. That makes a lot of sense.
And the smart thing to do would be, you can refi once and not have to pay the money back, but I'd refi as quickly as possible, get out of bed with California, let that money go back to the fund so somebody else can use it, and reduce the amount of money that you're going to share with them.
Exactly. No, I think it's a wise strategy. And, 5 years down the road, they'd be able to do that easily. So should be simple.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. We're at that time of the show where we get to reveal. Yeah, where's my drum roll, Scott?
Oh, man, I didn't have your drum roll ready. I'm sorry.
He's all ready to go, but luckily Craig's in the house. All right, Craig, what are you?
I went around in my 20s thinking maybe I could be a model because my dad was a model. So I'm the model that was rejected, or I never modeled. I did for a couple of photographers, but never professionally. But I went to, so my dad was signed up with Wilhelmina East. It's a modeling agency in New York. And I went to all the agencies and I saved Wilhelmina for the last. And everybody just said, no, no, no. Wilhelmina said, no, you're too old. And I thought, my dad was 35, I think, when he started modeling. So you guys suck. And that was the end of my modeling career.
They let you down easy, Craig. Scott, share with us.
Mine was surfing with a monkey. So I was in Costa Rica. There are monkeys all over the place, and there are howler monkeys, which I think are really pretty amazing. And got connected to the surf instructor and heard that if you connected up with him, that you could actually surf, and you could surf with a monkey on the front of your surfboard. Well, so I go and I check it out and take a surf lesson, and come to find out I did surf with a monkey on the front of my surfboard, but it's a sticker of a monkey. So not as exciting as it sounded, but it was still a cool experience nonetheless. So there you go. Surfing with monkeys.
Sounds pretty amazing to me. So
monkeys and sombreros.
What's
monkeys
that?
and sombreros.
Yes.
Monkeys and sombreros.
That's up with that. But
that's also the bar that Scott's going to visit next week, called Monkeys and Sombreros. So in high school, my second job was a place called Sacramento Video. And this was in the heyday when movie night actually meant something, where your family would go pick up movies. And this was very much the cool spot to work. And I remember a couple things distinct about it. One is they had this really nice emerald green carpet. I'm sure they got that from, was it Wizard of the Oz? Is that the green?
Yeah.
But really cool green carpet. But also that carpet, when you would walk, would build up static. And every time you touched the counter, you would zap yourself, like the little static electricity. So you had to get used to being shocked every 2 minutes working there. So that was distinct. Now, during that time when I worked there, Point Break, Scott, you mentioned surfing. Point Break came out. And we all loved Point Break. In fact, my buddies and I started talking like the guys from the movies, and we used to call each other brah.
Brah.
Yeah, brah.
What up, brah?
You guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
BRAH. So, for the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders, he's Scott Benson, he's Craig Yace, and I'm the brah.